So next, please welcome Nick Pollock. His title of his talk is Investigating the Deadliest Volcanic Hazard, Pyroclastic Flows.
Imagine that you live in a village on the flanks of a volcano in Central America. You were born in this village, spent your whole life there, and the volcano sat in the backdrop, quiet and peaceful. And then one day the volcano starts to awaken. Gas, sulfur gas, can be smelled coming from the summit. A series of small earthquakes shakes and rattles the village. Even a series of explosions can be seen from the summit. This understandably has the villagers worried. They've never seen activity like this before from their volcano. Is this activity normal? Do they need to evacuate immediately, or can they wait to see what happens? For the over 700 million people living within reach of an active volcano, these are important questions related to volcanic hazards. Questions that we as experts need to provide reliable answers to. My research focuses on the most deadly aspect of volcanic eruptions, pyroclastic flows. Pyroclastic flows are essentially volcanic avalanches. These are mixtures of volcanic gas, ash, and boulders that come cascading down the sides of volcanoes at speeds of over 100 miles an hour. They can travel more than 30 miles at temperatures over 800 degrees. You can imagine that if your village was located on the flanks of a volcano, you would be worried about one of these flows. Unfortunately, there are three things that make studying these flows in real time difficult. One, they're dangerous. Two, they're unpredictable. And three, they're shrouded in this upper ash cloud. And that ash cloud really obscures what's going on at the interior of these flows. Unfortunately, it's those processes happening at the interior that really control the distance these flows can travel. So my research seeks to understand those processes that control the distances these flows can travel. To investigate these processes, I take two approaches. First, I study the deposits left behind by these flows long after the eruption. And this is an image from the May 18th, 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, which is where I do the majority of my work. And while the deposits may lend us clues and insight as to what was happening inside these flows during the eruption, they unfortunately don't tell the whole story. And so to overcome that, I've also done a series of lab experiments where we simulate these flows in a safe, controlled environment. I use a 3-meter long channel and tiny glass beads to simulate the behavior of these flows in the lab. By studying the processes, and this is an example of one of my flows, by studying these processes in a controlled environment, we can understand better what controls the overall behavior of these flows. Occasionally, we produce structures in the lab that we also see in the field in these wave structures. And by understanding the formation of these structures, we can extrapolate that information back to the field, ultimately to provide more accurate and safe hazard assessments for these villages located on volcanoes all over the world. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so curious what led you to this area of research initially.
Well, I grew up in Ohio, which is a volcanic hotbed. That's not true. It's about as far away from a volcano as you could possibly be.
I just want to point out, you could tell it's an educated audience, right? Because if they knew that was a joke, and I was like, really? I'm from Michigan. I didn't think that was true.
No, you're safe. You're safe. We're safe in the Midwest.
They clued me in. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
No, actually, the first geology class that I took in college, there was a spring break trip associated with that, and it was to Ecuador to go look at the active volcanoes in Ecuador, and that kind of piqued my interest and started the ball rolling, and the ball has rolled.
Right?
No,
Yes,
exactly.
right.
And now the ball has rolled all the way here.
That's right. Well, well done. Was there a moment of peak interest? Again, another pun. Sorry. A moment of peak interest in this area, like a moment of real, like, exciting discovery that you felt in your work.
So with this project, it's been really a series of aha moments, and that's what ultimately keeps me going. I mean, if I were waiting around for one aha moment, I'd be waiting a long time.
Right.
So those little light bulb moments that happen every so often are really what keep me going.
And what takes you away from this kind of work and refreshes you?
Actually, one of the things, I love going into the field. So that's, I spend a lot of time in the lab and the classroom, and ultimately that's, 80% of my time or more.
Right.
And so really getting into the field and getting to see the deposits in the real world, that's what's really exciting.
Indiana Jones felt the same way, so you're in good company.
I'm not being chased by snakes.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.